Today, what we're talking about today, we're talking about practical elements of ceremony and what couples can do, because we're going to send this out to all our couples that are going to be having rites and rituals ceremonies, what couples can do to think about and action to make sure that they are getting the most from their ceremony. Because there are certain things that come up again and again and again that kind of let ceremonies down, that could be done so much better. Oh, we forgot to mention our wee altar.
I was going to say, we've got our altar there. That we've got a different altar today. This is the thing we're going to be doing now. Is going to set up a new altar at the beginning of every podcast. If you are watching, then obviously you can see lots of lovely things we have displayed. If you're just listening, then we'll give you a wee quick tour around our altar for today. Yes.
So what did I bring today? Well, we've got our Celtic Wheel of the Year, so the slice of tree that everything's sitting on. I brought a wee quaich and a hip flask with some whiskey in it, because we often use those in our ceremonies, very popular ritual. I brought a hand fasting ribbon because, again, very popular in ritual. I brought a wee central candle and we lit that just beforehand, just to draw in any of our spirits, our wise and loving ancestors, our energy from our couples who have walked the path with rites and rituals, drawing all that into this space to hold it as we talk and try and give tips to our couple. And of course my wee herb pot that's burning our beautiful herbs there. What did you bring?
Well, this one, I've got the incense, which I haven't lit because we've got the herbs going, and that's beautiful. And in this
smell lavender.
I know, it's gorgeous. And there's lavender and thyme there. I do have an incense that I could light, but I think there's enough with that just now. It's just nice to sort of symbolise. And that would be offering again to spirit, to source, just a little a burning offering. I do have that connection to nature. Again, I do love my antlers, not actually my antlers, but that sort of, to me, is a connection to nature and the circle of and death and life and death. But I also think that the whiskey is a lovely thing to have on an altar, because it's a little offering to spirit as well, just to sort of
a wee cheeky dram.
But again, Lindy's brought things that we would use in ceremony that our couples may have chosen to incorporate in their ceremony, in the ritual. And it's really lovely to take a moment, if we do have them. You know, a lot of the time of our couples will have their own hand fasting ribbons, and we may say to them, well, you see the night before or the week before or whatever, maybe light a candle or something and give your items of ritual some form of blessing and acknowledgement, because they're not just props. That's where we go wrong. I know you have huge, in fact, explain about the Harris Tweed stuff that you use, but I think what happens a lot, if you suddenly think, oh great, I'm getting married, brilliant, okay, you start YouTubing everything, or I remember I saw that hand fasting, that looks great. And yes, it looks beautiful, makes a fantastic photo, but you need to understand the intent and why we are doing and the connection that we're making with the items of ritual. They are not just props.
No. Everything that you bring into ceremony brings its own energy. Everything. So the people, the music, the ritual items, the words, the building itself,
the ceremonialists,
everything brings its own energy. And so we will work really bloody hard to make sure that everything we bring in has depth, meaning, story behind it.
Absolutely.
We, as rites and rituals ceremonialists, we are always on the lookout. We're in old antique shops where our awareness is always open for wee things, stones that we might find that in the shape of a love heart. Oh, that was meant for us. We are always looking for things that have depth and meaning behind them. So not just, I'll say to my couples, if you're going to get your own hand fasting ribbons, don't just go into Amazon a couple of days before and buy some red ribbon. That is pointless. Unless you're going to if you see that ribbon on Amazon, you think, absolutely lovely, love that, fine. You buy it well in advance and you have it in your home where you are living, where you are loving, where you're chatting to each other, where you're laughing. Let it absorb that energy. And as you said a couple of nights before the ceremony, sit with it, light a candle, have that hand fasting ribbons. Think about the journey you've taken as a couple. Think about what you hope for your years ahead. Think about the day itself and what you hope, what your intention is for that day. Let that be absorbed by that material, so that when the time comes and we bind it around the hands, we are not just wrapping a bit of material around your hands. That is pointless. So everything that comes into ceremony brings its own energy. And so it really needs thought and consideration. Now, most couples, particularly brides, I'm going to say it, organise their weddings, not the ceremony, their weddings down to a T. Favours on the table. It's like Downton Abbey with a cutlery, how perfect it is, and where the wee favours have to sit, and the cake, and we champagne bottles, and everything has to be absolutely perfect. Donut walls and crisp walls, and yet when it comes to the ceremony itself, they book the celebrant, and then it's the celebrant's going to take care of that. And it's not the fault of couples, it's how far removed from ceremony we are as a society. And of course, we're trying to bring couples back to that and say the more invested you are in your ceremony, the better a ceremony it's going to be. And we co-create things. It's don't just leave it all to me, because that's no fear. I have to know what you want. You can't ever create a ceremony for somebody without having their input. That doesn't make sense to me, because you need to know why they're having it. Oh, and it's not just we're getting married. Well, why are you getting married? You've been living together for 7 years. Why get married? What is it that's driving you to go this step further? And what does marriage mean to you? What does it mean to stand up there in front of your 120 guests and say, from this day forward, I legally, as well as emotionally and spiritually, I choose you. What does that mean to you? I need to know those things before I sit down and start putting it together. So it's super important for couples to be really invested in every aspect of their ceremony, including all the things they bring into it. But the first thing that couples need to ask themselves is what mood they're trying to set for their ceremony. And this is one of the first questions I ask with couples when I get them on Zoom. So I always have an initial Zoom call with couples. I never take a booking without a Zoom call, because we need to make sure we're a fit.
Well, exactly. It's not a one-way thing. It's a two-way thing as well. Going back to what we were saying right at the beginning, if they suddenly turn around and they have very set views on ceremony and, oh, no, we just want the legalities done, that's that, then we would with integrity say you might be better with the registrar down that road.
And I've done that a couple of times this year, that. I've come back to the group and said I just had a call with a couple and made it very clear we don't want anything fancy, we just want the legalities, this is all a big show. And I said, well, you might not want to hear this, but why don't you just go to a registrar? Because what I do is completely different from what you're asking, and I don't think I'm the right person.
And part of the joy of what we do is actually when they stop and go, well, what do you mean by that? And you explain about how we hold ceremony, how we would hold ceremony with them, the things that we would bring to the table, and how you can tell very quickly how invested the couple become, because it becomes a sense of magic and beauty and creativity and connection that they may not, it's no fault of their own, we live in that society, they may not have ever experienced before. And you see the wonder and the excitement suddenly for their ceremony, not just to
even know that they needed it.
They didn't know they needed it.
Suddenly they think, oh my
goodness,
goodness,
we just want a party.
Yes.
Like, well, do you? Because
Well, traditionally, the ceremony was always the bit that you just had to get through to get to the other side. right, to get, as you say, the party. Nowadays, that's no true. Or if you choose the right celebrant, that's no true. That's where the celebration starts. And I don't mean it has to be all fun and games. It can be, but that's where the magic starts. That's a better way of saying it. That's where the magic starts during the ceremony, where everybody present, the couple, us, ceremonialists, and all the guests, feel as if they've been part of something magical. And then they go off buzzing for the next bit. But in order to be able to do that, we need to know what's been asked of us. And we need to be able to trust that couples are going to be invested enough to bring that all together. So the very first thing I have to think about is, what mood are you trying to set for your ceremony? Do you want it to be traditional? That's fine, okay, well, all get everything. Everything should come out of that. Everything, the music you choose, the readings you choose, the people that go up to speak, the wording, and the party afterwards, to be honest. Do you want it to be light-hearted and relaxed? Then the music should align with that, the words should align with that. But if we don't work that out, and I sit with a couple and I think, oh, they're a really fun, happy couple, and I really write this really fun, happy ceremony, and they read it and they were thinking they wanted something very traditional, then it's going to jar with them. So that's the first thing we need to ascertain. And it's the question that usually couples go, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I haven't even...
Because they haven't thought about it yet.
I haven't even thought about that. But it's a really important question. And it's a question every celebrant should ask you. What mood are you trying to set? Because if you said to me, we want it to be very serious, we want it to be completely traditional, completely reverential, I would say to you, that's absolutely lovely. There are better celebrants out there than me to do that. Because my style, every celebrant has their own style. And they're all different. Different doesn't mean better, it just means different. But my style, like it or loathe it, is relaxed. We have a very similar style. Relaxed, laid back, fun. Because that's who
we're not incredibly formal, life. You know. Yeah. But when the moment in ceremony comes for the formality, for those beautiful moments, for the legal words to be said, for that transitional moment where they step into threshold, something that we're both very, very focused on is bringing that down.
But that's because we understand ceremony. Yeah. We understand the power of ceremony. We understand what it is we're stepping into. We understand that you have to be rooted before you rise. You have to be rooted before you rise. So you have to be grounded in the fact that something very special is happening between these two people. And then you can rise and open the ceremony to the fun. But if you don't get that, if you don't understand that, there's something magical. And I will say to my couples, just before the ceremony, just before the bride walks through the door, I'll say, because often you go out to see the bride and they're all hyper. They're hyper and the bridesmaids are hyper. Everybody's hyper. They're vibrating away up here somewhere. And I'll say, we have to know that when you step through this door and you step into ceremony, because you're not just stepping through a door, you're stepping into ceremony. We have to know that when you step into ceremony, something magical is going to take place between you on a level that we don't quite understand. Because if not, why are we here? Why are we here? Why did you not just go to the registrar? If you don't understand that, then it's all about the performance.
Yeah. And it begins, and I think when couples forget as well, it actually begins before your bride has made the entrance, because as celebrants, as rites and ritual ceremonialists, we will speak to your guests and your family and friends to sort of get everybody in that space. Yes, you do your housekeeping. Yes, you may say, oh, it's an unplugged ceremony. But we also find it really important that they are ready to hold ceremony for the couple. We're all holding each other.
They're rooted.
They're rooted.
We have to make sure they're rooted.
The beyond is holding us from beyond. And the minute that the ceremony begins, it's begun way before your guests walk in and sit down.
Oh, way before. Weeks, months, for as long as they've been working with you, it should start to take hold. But I will say to my couples, what will take your ceremony from being an okay ceremony, and everybody go, no, that was really nice, to something magical is how much you two are present and grounded with each other. And that's something you and I cannot
We can't create that. We can help them and support them through them.
We can talk them through it. We can support them through it. We can send them emails. We can, when we're sitting in discussion, we can, try and highlight that. But if they can't find a way to ground themselves in ceremony with each other on the day, then it'll become very superficial. Sometimes even performative, because we get lots of fun, real uplifting ceremonies, and then it becomes performative. If they can just be with each other, almost like nobody else is present in the room, it's just them, and it's their wedding day. My God, in a world of almost 8 billion people, you two found each other, and you get to walk this life together. How absolutely amazing is that? And if there's ever a moment to stop and think about that, it's when you're standing in front of each other in your wedding day. And so many couples, they are running a million miles an hour because there's so much to organise, and the dresses and the kilts and the favours and the cakes and the venue and this and that and this, and they run all the way to the door.
And then they're there.
And then they're there. And if they don't ground themselves, they won't remember it. It will not feel as meaningful as it should be. And we'll go home at the end of the day, and we know that.
Yeah,
I'll go into my car and think, that's a shame, because it just felt superficial. They're distracted, they're looking around the room, they're making silly wee jokes with each other that are maybe not appropriate because they're a bit embarrassed, and
they're pulling at their dresses,
they're looking over at wee ones running about, and I will stop and say, okay, let's take a breath.
And I think that's okay, because it's not something you do every day, and hopefully you only ever do once, but it is distracting, and there's nerves and there's excitement, and and we as ceremonialists will do our best to help you become as grounded as possible. One of the first things that we always say is, see, when you actually come to the bottom of the aisle, if that's the setup, take as much time as you need. It doesn't matter. Take that moment to look into each other's eyes, to hold each other. We always have a laugh. You always say when people, they won't make eye contact with each other even.
It's like married at first sight.
Married at first sight. And it's nerves, it's excitement, it's,
it's tradition. Can we look at each other? Should we touch? What do we do?
And that's okay, and it doesn't have to be formal. You don't have to know the rules, because we are there to hold you and guide you and say, why don't you just stand there a little bit, face your guests a little bit so they can see you, engage with each other. We can do that for you, but you have to be able to ground yourselves together. And maybe that becomes a practice before the ceremony itself. You may have something that you'd like to, it may be a bit awkward, but stand and look at each other in the mirror, side by side, look into each other's eyes, make those beautiful moments that that you can take that moment of stillness. Don't get caught up in the vows, oh God, I've got to speak in front of people. If you're not a natural speaker, the vows aren't for the person at the back of the room to hear. The vows are for you and your partner to say to each other, and to mean and to believe.
And for your two witnesses to hear.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. You can't whisper it. But it is a moment. It's these moments that we can help you create, but you have to.
You have to be in the moment with each other. You have to find a way of being in the moment with each other. If you're working with me, I harp on about it constantly, from our first meeting on Zoom right till the day of your ceremony. I harp on about it so much. But those couples who get it right, and in my experience, it's often older couples and couples that have been married before, and either their loved one has passed through the veil, or they've got divorced and they've found somebody else, and they kind of recognise that, right, what we are doing this time is for us. It's about us two coming together. It's us two being in this wee bubble, this wee came bubble. And they seem to be much, much better at it than a lot of younger couples.
I think, our society doesn't lend itself necessarily to intimate ceremony. And the intimate ceremonies are beautiful, just the smaller gatherings. And the larger your guest, the larger the space that we're in, it becomes more difficult, obviously, to create that. So we are very caught up now with, we've always had photographers around, videographers. We now have content creators. We've got drones. We've got...
Did you not have content creators sitting in the middle of the...
Yes, actually, I was mentoring a ceremony for one of our ceremonialists, and so I wasn't. I was standing at the back, so I had a good view. I wasn't caught up in holding ceremony, and it was a huge space, beautiful. Don't get me wrong; it was a stunning venue. The guests, unfortunately, had been asked to come in and sit. They were sitting for about 45 minutes. Before the bridal party arrived. So they were, by that point, absolutely understandably distracted, a little bit kind of, there was people on their phones, and you could, because I was standing behind, you could see folk on Facebook and whatever. And once the ceremony started, I was astounded. In fact, even the wedding coordinator stood next to me going, I've never seen that before. The content creator, photographer, and some other person, I don't know what they were doing, 3 people about 10 feet in front of the bride and groom, all sitting in the aisle on their knees or cross-legged, videoing or filming. Now, that to me is...
a bit intrusive.
It's intrusive, and I'm sure that's what they've discussed with the bride, and she was very happy with that, so that's okay. But it kind of kills that feeling of being held in ceremony. You're literally, it's like a TV show.
And some celebrants will say, absolutely no photographer in our circle, in our space. And I can understand that. I try not to do it because when I'm in ceremony, I don't really notice photographers.
And most photographers, we work around each other without even knowing each other.
Yeah, most photographers are really good. They try and, I try and keep out their shots. They try and sort of keep out.
But when you've got all that going on, literally not even 10 feet in front of the bride, the groom not so much. It's not pick on the bride time. It's she then becomes very conscious of how she's looking, about what angle she's at, and what side is her better side and things. And okay,
because they want those beautiful photographs. And they're paying a lot of money for those beautiful photographs. And I understand that, but it does. Let's be honest, it takes away a wee bit of the authenticity of the ceremony, and just being there together with each other, regardless of whether your train is, absolutely perfect. I will always say to bridesmaids and maids of honor, come forward,
I'll do it myself.
Or I'll do it myself. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. But I wanted to go back to something you said a minute ago. So there we talked about making sure you know the mood of your ceremony. We talked a wee bit about being grounded in the moment with each other. And you mentioned guests sitting 45 minutes before. And that is a recurring problem. Some venues, because what will happen is, depending on how many guests you've got, and depending whether it's a venue where you have an events coordinator or it's one of these exclusive use venues where, sorry, I'm looking at the telly again and the camera's over here, an exclusive use venue where it will be up to you to delegate to somebody to ask your guests to come and take their seats. But regardless, at some point before your ceremony is due to start, and let's say your ceremony is due to start at 2 p.m, at some point before that, somebody is going to have to ask your guests to come and take their seats. Now, some venues are very good at this, because what they'll do and what they should do is, if the ceremony is due to start at 2 o'clock and they think, okay, it's 20 to 2, let's get everybody sat down, instead of just saying to everybody, come and sit down, they should phone upstairs or to wherever the bride is. Now, if it's the bride and groom, if they're both making an entrance, then speaking to both of them and just asking, are you on time? Are you going to be ready to step into ceremony at 2 o'clock? If the answer to that is yes, then fine. At 22, at 1:45, they can say to those guests, they're usually in the bar having a wee drink, finish up your drink, make your way into the ceremony room. Perfect. However, Some venues are no good at this at all, and they just look at the watch, 2:00, right, it's 1:30, get everybody sat down. So they sit everybody down. This happened to me recently, that exact timing. Was supposed to start at 2, 1:30, everybody's come in and started taking their seats. And then the photographer came in and said, oh, she's running about 15, 20 minutes late. So now she's not going to be with us to 2:20. They've been sat down since 1:30. So now they've been sitting down, and there was lots of young children, for 45, 50 minutes before the ceremony even starts. Now, that would be a problem anyway in any ceremony. Who wants to sit there for 50 minutes? You know, if you went to the theatre and it was supposed to start at 7 and it never started to, 10 to 8, you'd be going off your head, right? But if you've asked for a ceremony, as couples often ask, that's light-hearted and relaxed and fun, you're going to have a real problem.
Yeah, because it's disconnect. You're disconnected already.
They're not in the mood for fun when they've been sitting for 50 minutes. They were expecting to have a drink in their hand in that time, and they're still being left sitting. So one, try not to be late. I know they say it's a bride's prerogative, but your guests, if you've told your guests that the ceremony's starting at 2, please try and make sure that
I agree.
It starts at 2:00. But if you are going to be late, if something happens and you can't help it, that's fine. But send somebody to tell your celebrant. Because very, very rarely.
We're good, but we're no stand-up comedians. We like to think we are at times, but we can't hold people and entertain people for 40 minutes.
Very rarely do they come and tell you that the bride's running late. You just have to work it out for yourself, right? So if we're not started, oh no, she's running 20 minutes late. Did nobody tell you? No, nobody tells me anything. So send somebody to tell us, but make sure that your guests are not getting seated until you know that you're going to, even if you say, I will phone downstairs when I know that I'm 10 minutes away from coming down, and then everybody can come and take their seats, and you're going to have much happier guests than if you do it the other way.
And as we say, most venues, especially venues where the bride is on site, it's not too bad. But if you've got the bride coming in from somewhere else and she's got a horse-drawn carriage and there's, or cars, and, hopefully your wedding coordinator will be all over that. But when it doesn't happen, it's really difficult not for us, it's not about us, but it's difficult for your guests to connect to the ceremony, because they'll be thinking about that gin and tonic they left sitting in the bar that'll be warm by the time they get back to it. And at that ceremony that I was speaking about, there was also a group of lads up the back. They'd obviously been in early, they'd had a few. They were chit-chatting all the way, you know what I mean, at the back of the ceremony, because they weren't engaged at all. And it's not their fault. It's not your guest's fault for being sat there for a lot.
No, absolutely not. You're trying to make it as happy and as joyful a ceremony and a day for them as it is going to be for you. And even though it's your wedding day and you have all this leeway because it is your wedding day, you should be thinking about your guests and their comfort and their...
Exactly. And most of the questions that we get asked when we first start speaking to a couple is, how long is it going to be? How long is it going to be? And you think, oh, well, okay. Well, it depends what you want.
What you want.
It depends how we build the ceremony. But most couples, and quite rightly, I think about their guests and they say, oh, I don't want people sitting there for 45 minutes, an hour for the ceremony. And I say, well, it depends what we have, but you're looking at about half an hour, 40 minutes, at the most, whatever. But we'll cross that bridge when we start putting your ceremony together. But if you are that considerate of your guests for the actual ceremony, think about the fact they've already been sitting there for 40 minutes. So the ceremony to them, they'll come away going, oh, it was lovely, but crikey, the ceremony was an hour and a half long.
Yes.
No, it wasn't.
I had a couple this morning chatting on Zoom, and I said, is there anything that you want to have in your ceremony, or conversely, that you don't? So we talked through what they wanted in their ceremony, because one is a practising Catholic and the other one not so much. So it was how we can bring in the aspects of belief into their ceremony. So that's nice. But when it came to what they didn't want, she said, oh, we went to a ceremony recently and oh my goodness, it was just so long. It was so long. And she said they went over every detail of their story. She said, now we want a story and we want to share that with people, but we don't need to know what they had for their dinner last night. when you're putting together a ceremony with your celebrant, you should have your guests in mind.
Yeah.
You should be thinking, is this going to... I remember having a ceremony, it was a couple of years ago, and it was a really lovely ceremony. It was a couple, they knew exactly what they wanted. And it was outside, and it turned out to be the best day of the year, the most beautiful day of the year, and it was one of these exclusive use venues. But they had, just as it started, they had a clan battle.
A clan battle?
A clan battle. So there was kids and there was adults and there was two clans, and it was great. I mean, visually it was stunning, and these wee kids were amazing. And the kids had learned these lines. They were all saying, take that, you scoundrel. And the kids were just absolutely brilliant. So they had that. They had this full ceremony with readings and the usual, and they had hand fastings, and they were fans of the film Inception. I don't know if you've seen Inception, and they spin the spinning top.
Right, no.
And if it keeps spinning, you're dreaming, and if it stops spinning, you're not dreaming.
Sounds too deep for me.
It's very deep. It's a great film. It's an absolutely brilliant film. They had 2 plinths that each had a spinning top on it. And when they went to sign their marriage schedule, they spun it. They had somebody playing a guitar. They then had somebody up singing. They had all these huge... It was an hour and a half. And I had said to them, look, when it gets to that point where you've said your vows and you've been declared husband and wife, you want to keep everything else quite short. You don't want to have lots of different elements in there, because at that point people are expecting it to move towards the end. So
you've kind of done the peak and they're coming down the other side.
Whatever you're going to put in as you're building up to it, because people are going to want a drink, they're going to want to go to the toilet, but they wanted all these different elements in it, and you could see people just getting up and going to the loo and just disconnecting and go. Still a beautiful ceremony it was, but you have to think about your guests and put yourself in their shoes. Much as you love it and you think it's going to be amazing, are they going to be happy to sit for an hour and a half just watching?
But exactly, there is absolutely, and it's up to us to guide you to get the happy medium, so that you're happy with the length of ceremony, how it's going to run. And again, going back to what we said, if you turn around to us and you say, oh no, I just want to sign a bit of paper and that's it, done. We're not the right celebrant. We're not the right ceremonials for you. We're not the right sort of community for you to be part of. But you have to strike that balance.
Yeah. And we will say to you, I think that's
a wee bit much.
I'll say, your guests are just going to be thinking, what you're going to do next, pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Exactly. And a wee note to other celebrants out there, I think when we first start doing ceremony, I mean, I was guilty of that as well. I wanted to put everything in.
Wanted everything
I wanted to put everything in, and we can do this and we can do that. But actually, you find that sometimes you'll start working with your couple, and they'll start with nothing. They don't. Oh, I don't want any of that. And then as you start putting their ceremony together, they'll think, oh, well, that's quite... Once they connect with the ritual, they might think, oh, I quite like that idea.
Yeah. Or coming up with sort of other ways that they can do it. So I remember a couple getting married in House for an Art Lover. I don't know if you've ever done a ceremony in there, but it's quite a tight space. And they were having a hand fasting, and they were having the quaich, they were having the oaten stone, I think. And they wanted to do a sword game. And so a sword game is where a sword would be drawn and an imaginary circle would be drawn round the couple to create this circle, this sacred circle of protection in which they could exchange their vows with each other. And they wanted to do personal vows that were going to read to each other, and they wanted to do sort of more, vows of marriage. And I said to them, I think that's a bit much, and we can't do a sword game in House for an Art Lover, or we're going to decapitate somebody, probably 2 or 3 people, actually, because it's... And while I'm up for most things...
Yes, we don't want to shed blood.
that would have been in front of the Sunday Post. We're always thinking about the spaces we're going to work in, and you often work in these spaces again and again, and you can see that's actually quite a tight space. But they were really keen on doing this. So what we did was, because there's a beautiful sort of secret garden in House for an Art Lover, so before the ceremony started, we went out there, we created the sword game, in the garden. We were only going to decapitate anybody. So I created the cane, and then we retreated. And they exchanged their personal vows just to each other.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
So we had no idea what they were saying. We couldn't hear a thing. It was really lovely. And we were just standing by. I don't even look because it's their wee moment. And then we went inside and we had their beautiful ceremony, but we didn't need to create
with the legal vows.
With the legal vows. And it was lovely because they got everything they wanted.
Yeah.
But we just did it kind of in a different way.
It's a bit like all ceremony. You think, oh, I've seen that. It doesn't have to. Every ceremony is different.
And there's great flexibility in it.
It doesn't have to be formula.
Two women getting married up in Loch Lomond, and they were really hoping to have the ceremony outside. And on the day, it was one of those, it was raining, it was storming. And they made the call about 15 minutes before, because it was pouring rain, that they would have it inside. And it was a beautiful space inside. But you could see they were quite disappointed. And I said, well, look, how's about this? Well, have your ceremony inside. But then when it comes to the signing, if it stopped raining, I will instruct everybody that while you complete the signing with your 2 witnesses, everybody goes outside and we'll go out and we'll have the quaich, the ritual out there, and we will close your ceremony out there at the side of the loch. And they said that would be beautiful, and that's what we did. It stopped raining. I said, while we go and sign the register, you guys head outside. We'll be out in 5 minutes. We signed the schedule, and then we went outside and closed it. So they get the best of both worlds. So that's part of when you choose a celebrant. You want to choose somebody that has that experience and that flexibility, that they are not rigid in what they're going to deliver. They can take it in different directions, and they're creative enough to think, okay, that might not work, but what if we did this?
And to be able to think on your feet, because as you say, that the weather or the witness might not turn up because they might be ill. We have to be able to make you guys feel that because we do, we know what's going to happen, and we are safe. We will hold you through anything that might throw us curveballs. Ceremony's full of curveballs, and we just take it and run with it.
I always say to my couples, it doesn't matter what happens in the day, I'll take it in the direction that it needs to. You just need to get yourself there. Don't worry about another
and don't be too late.
I will lead you through everything. The other thing I wanted to mention, we're running out of time, is music, because it's the bane of my life in ceremony. And I'm just going to put it out there, if you can, get a live musician. Because, if we think back to thousands of years ago in ceremony, the music would have been drums or voices, people singing, people chanting. And that would have been done very organically. Look at us when we're training, and sometimes we bring the drums out, and it's just, I can't read music, so we don't do it in a very structured way. We just feel the beat. And ceremony is got a heartbeat of its own. If you then are bringing in a Spotify playlist, and you've asked the venue to press the play button, and it's some wee girl who's on minimum wage, and she's just started, and she's really nervous, and she doesn't quite know what she's doing.
She's ready for you to go.
And she's just going to press that play button, and when you get to the end of it, she's going to just press that stop button. Honestly, it does my head in. It is the one thing again and again that lets ceremonies down, because music has the ability to really lift your ceremony and really hold it. It's like, imagine watching a trailer of your favourite movie without any music. Because that's what happens if you get it wrong. You get brides walking down and there's no music playing.
Well, exactly, because everything you put out afterwards, a lot of the content, snapshots of your ceremony and all that kind of thing, or everything you post now, you add music to it. You never send anything out.
It lifts it.
So why would you add music to something afterwards to go out on social media when you don't have it in your ceremony, or don't have it done in a way that works for you for where it works?
I've had brides walking down to no music. I have had couples walking back up to no music. I've had brides walking down and the music ends halfway down because somebody kicks the plug and it comes out, or somebody presses the stop button. I've had the wrong songs. I've had so many different things go wrong where music is concerned. And it's because couples are not all over it. The venue will say, oh, we'll do it. What does that mean? Who'll do it? I was at one recently, and I think I shared this with the group, and they told me that the venue was doing it, and I saw the lady from the venue come and we were speaking. I said, oh, you're doing the music. She said, we're not doing the music. We only found out we were supposed to do the music last night, and we've not prepared for it. So one of their guests is doing the music, and you could tell she was pissed off. And I said, okay, and this guest came in, this young guy, and he just looked terrified. And he said to me,
because it's a lot of responsibility.
Do you know what I have to play where and when? I said, no, I do not. I said, and I'm going to kick their arses. I'll tell you that right now. Because that's something that should have been sorted out well before the night before. And the poor guy, he connected his phone to the speaker, but then the speaker was at the back, and he came and sat at the front. And what happened? He pressed his phone and nothing happened. And he panicked and pressed stop, and she walked in to the ceremony with nothing. Again, think about watching your favourite film with no soundtrack. It was just, and it really, really annoys me because it is so avoidable. If couples just get on top of it, if you're asking somebody to play a Spotify playlist, make sure they've got the music well in advance, weeks in advance. Make sure that person has downloaded it, because if you don't have a signal where you're going, then you'll not be able to play it. And make sure they have practiced
Fading,
pressing that song, and when you get to the end of the hour, just letting it play for a few seconds, and then gently, if they want to look at me, I'll give them a nod, gently fading it out, or just, if it's only got 30, 40 seconds left, just letting it play. We will work around that music, but none of this just stopping, none of this panicking, and couples will go, oh, it's all right, we don't need any, oh, it's no working, well, no, we don't need any music. Yes, you do.
Yeah, it does, because it's about that. It can create that whole holding everybody in ceremony again,
and
music
the mood.
And for mood.
If you've asked for an uplifting, happy, joyful, funny ceremony and there's no music, it's like walking into a church. Your guests walk into a room and there's no music. It's like walking into a church. So it's
and for signing, when they're signing,
all the different elements. We have to work so much harder to try and create that mood than we would if just more time and thought was given to the music that's going to be played. Whereas if you've got a live musician, then we can just chat with them and say, if I nod to you, can you play something? Yeah, no bother at all. See, at the end, can you make sure it's big so that it lifts the ceremony? Yeah, no problem at all. And so I can say, cue pianist.
Exactly. That we don't mind cueing people.
Cue pianist, cue piper.
Over to you.
We can get people ready. But so yes, that's another tip. There's so many tips we could give you, but we've kind of run out of time. But is there anything you wanted to?
No, I think music. I think we'll definitely open up to another podcast about holding marriage ceremonies and what the do's and don'ts, or ideas, suggestions in weddings. And if any of our future couples are watching this and you have any questions or any queries that come up, or anything you would like us to discuss, or even if you've already been married by us or by Rites and Rituals or by anybody, anything that came up in your ceremony that you wouldn't want your other couples to go through, then let's address it. Let's open up that conversation, because I'm sure there's hundreds of stuff that we've not come across yet that, we're always learning. So.
Always learning. Every day is a school day.
It is indeed.
We hope it's been interesting and informative for you guys. Thank you so much once again for tuning in to our wee podcast. We do really love the fact that there are people watching and listening. And
exactly. And our wee altar, that's going to be a regular feature. So if anybody wants to share anything about their altars or what they like to do, or even if they've never done one before, we
invite you to start creating your own wee personal altar that you can sit with. You maybe have it sitting as you're watching this podcast, or when you're doing a wee bit of spiritual practice in the morning or before you go to your bed at night. We'd love to hear what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay, once again, thanks for watching, and as always,
Gaun your soul.
Gaun your soul.